Hello, hello. This is the 38th Test from the Future, an experimental podcast from the year 2222, which we are trying to send back in time as far as possible. My name is Dirk.
And my name is Simon.
And we're putting the past in podcast. So, 2222.
It's a pretty cool sounding year.
I was thinking of saying, I think before I said 2221. I don't even know anymore what
I don't remember, but there's a thing when it changes like to a new decade or often to a new century where people say it in a different way. And it's like, but as it goes along, like 2222 just sounds right, you know?
It sounds right.
And I imagine 1,111 years ago, they just did 1111.
Probably 1111.
Sounds so good, yeah.
And also 2221 is in the past now.
Exactly.
And as we're saying,
it's old-fashioned style.
We're putting the past in podcast, and like you listen to our previous episodes, that's the past. But you were thinking 1111, they said it?
I mean, I don't know how they said it. Don't even know what language they would have spoken, where they used that calendar back then. So
I don't know, Latin or so?
Maybe. But so I don't know, would it have been 1111 or would it have been the year 1111? I don't know.
You think the people knew it was 1111?
I don't know. Because I don't know at what point... Some people, presumably some people knew. But I don't know how many people knew. And if it was like such a small number of people, maybe they never actually spoke it out loud. Maybe it was something they just wrote down, and knew in their heads, but it wasn't something they talked about.
I can just imagine that they realized later, like maybe years later, they're like, oh man, it was 1111, like a couple of years ago, we should have done something.
Yeah. And maybe then they like rejiggered the calendar a little, like, oh, actually, we learned that whatever the basis for this calendar is actually happened a couple of years later.
And now we can celebrate.
And give himself a bit of buffer, Next year is that celebration that we should do really fancy.
Was it?
Meaning 1111.
I think were the Romans still around? My history isn't really great.
They obviously had a really successful time, but then they hung around a while longer. Like they didn't have their big empire anymore, or at least not as big an empire, but they still had like Byzantine, I think.
Okay.
Or the Holy Roman Empire.
Well, they must have celebrated then.
I reckon. Yeah. I don't know. Assuming they used that calendar. That's the thing. I know about them. I don't know what calendar they used, but probably.
Man, I just like thinking about it. Like if you see how big we celebrated it worldwide, I can imagine maybe then there were still all kinds of different calendars around, but somebody must have used this calendar. Yeah. Because, how come we have it now? So somebody must have used it back then. Maybe it wasn't as widespread. And I really, maybe just a couple of monks in some monastery brewing some beer, going like, we should brew like
the extra double strength beer.
Yeah,
to celebrate
1111 beer, and everybody in the village can come and buy it. Light some fireworks.
It's 11%.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hey, this year 22, but no, there was there. Do you know of any drinks where they did that? Where it's like, hey, let's up our percentage. I mean, some could down it, but what's the point? But some you can imagine like, going, hey, we'll give you that little bit extra.
For me, it was actually a bit of an anticlimax, because 22, that's just super cool. And then, like, we didn't really do something special.
We've still got the whole year ahead of us, Maybe something will come up. Because it'll be the other way around, This time next year, we'll be like, oh man, it's just 22, 23, that's nothing good, We had a whole year of it being...
Exactly, we all this year to come up with something great, but so far, like, you would expect it, like, we've seen this coming. We knew for a while that it was going to be 22, and there were parties. And
you have your New Year's parties anyway.
Exactly. It was like you would like the only thing I saw were the islands that they made. Off the coast of, I think it was Brazil, Argentina, where they made like 22 islands. I think they've been working on that for years.
Sure.
And they had a party there. There's mostly beaches and. That was pretty cool, but that was kind of it,
Those islands are going to stick around, though. They haven't sunk them already.
Yeah, but it's like that's okay. It's nice, but they could have done that for 22, 23. It's like, or 22, 21, or
but numbers give people a reason to do big celebrations. Yeah, it doesn't mean anything, but hey, it looks cool. Yeah, but it sounds cool.
You could have done something with. Yeah, okay.
Looks cool.
Yeah, next year maybe they make more islands.
Yep. They could add an island every year.
That would be nice. At one point, you can walk from Brazil to Africa.
And 1,001... I don't know the distances involved. That's a big distance. 1,111 years from now, 33. I don't know how big these islands are, but maybe they fill up all the ocean with islands. Okay, that's...
and then we need to take the actual Earth from somewhere else.
Then they start building lakes.
Or maybe we have to...
when all the oceans are filled in with land, you've got no more water, or not large areas of water, not large bodies of water, then they start doing lakes.
Or by then they've got the planet building figured out and we just built like tiny planets that say...
A whole bunch of planets in some kind of ring, and you can look up in the distance and see them extending into space.
Interesting. It's actually it's a nice bridge to the actual topic of today's podcast. So for the people that are hearing this for the first time, me and Simon are living in the year 2222. We figured that one out, and we have a regular podcast where we speak about our technology, and we're sending it back 200 years. We figured out where you're hearing this, and you're learning about technology from our day and age.
From us.
And we know that this is working, so people that listen to the previous episodes know, because we have an email address.
We do.
Maybe you mention it.
I shall mention it. michaellasagna5@gmail.com. It's also in the show notes, if you can read those. But anyway, michaellasagna5@gmail.com. Send an email there. So please send an email there with the number 38 in the subject if you're hearing this. That way we can confirm. We're pretty sure these are going back always, but it's good for us to have confirmation that our method of sending them back is still working, that it hasn't stopped for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean that's also why we're calling these still tests, because every episode, in a sense, is a test. And it's episode 29 or so was the first one where we got an email back. So we were trying different technology then, but now we've been using the same technology. We've been getting emails, so it must be working. Of course, we can't answer because we're reading them 200 years later.
I mean, we answer here in the podcast.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, we can't send an email back.
Yeah. I mean, we can. You just
sure, we can reply to the email, but you won't get it because we don't have a way to send email back. We only have a way to send MP3s with ID free tags back.
It's true, yeah. I mean, and we do answer all of your emails immediately with really interesting content.
Oh yeah,
but you won't be able to read it because you're
you're probably dead. But unless you're still around, is what I was going to say.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
I've been thinking about that. 200 years. On one hand, it's a long time, but on the other, our human lives are being extended more and more. And I'm thinking, what if we're still around 200 years from now?
What?
We'll catch up with ourselves. I mean, it's still a ways off. Yeah, we don't have to worry about it now. 199 years. Sorry, we don't have to worry about it right now. But maybe we're still around.
Maybe if we scan all the podcast feeds that we currently have, maybe we'll find our own podcast that we're still recording 200 years from now.
That's how it would work. If we last the whole 200, say we last 100 years, so okay, we won't be able to now, but 100 years from now, we'll be able to hear the first episode, last episode. There'll be overlap.
Okay.
Let's say 150. Say we last 150 years, yeah?
Yeah.
51 years from now, we'll be able to hear the stuff from our future selves. Let's not worry about it.
Yes, okay. We'll get back to this once we figured it out. But yeah, so we're talking about technology in our day and age. You can send emails to this address.
michaellasagna5@gmail.com.
And last episode, that was the solstice episode, last one from the last year. Somebody asked about alien technology. We must have mentioned in one of the previous episodes, saying, hey, by the way, do you have alien technology? We said yes, and we promised to get back to it. And we keep our promises. So this episode, we were going to talk a little bit about alien technology, but when we got the question last time, we realized we didn't really mention anything about alien races.
Right, no.
So far. So
I think our focus is the tech, but we do understand some context might be useful for you.
Yeah, and interesting, we spoke about my profession, I think, maybe one of the previous episodes. I'm actually the ethics advisor in the UFOPOol, which is a organization dealing with alien stuff. We can speak about this at some point in the future. So I know a little bit, so maybe I can...
Please, yeah.
We first encountered alien races in 2199. So that's by now 23 years ago. The first contact, as we call it, was with two races at the same time.
They were hanging out together?
Yeah, they arrived together, and they knew each other already for, as we understand it, several centuries. So they already know each other during your time, basically, is what I'm saying. So you, the listener,
in 2022, in your time, these guys were hanging out, having a good old time. Not on Earth, not near Earth, presumably, but doing stuff.
If we understand them correctly, they had just learned about Earth relatively shortly before they arrived, and we call it first contact, which is when they touched ground in Belgium. So no idea why they did it in Belgium, but that's where they landed.
For the French fries. Not the French fries, you know what I mean, but the chips.
And the waffles. And the chocolate.
Oh yeah, damn.
See? Oh wow.
Still using beef tallow that never went away.
It's suddenly a whole lot of things become a lot clearer. Like the whole world has been asking, why on earth would they go to Belgium?
There's some good reasons.
There's some good reasons, yeah. The surprising thing was they were when they landed, they spoke French. So the first thing that people were thinking, like there were a few.
They were worried how they would communicate, I guess.
Yeah, like there were villagers that were actually thinking it was a prank because they spoke French.
Okay.
But anyway, so there's two alien races, which we call the Illuminati and the Parthians, which is not what they call themselves, but it's kind of like.
Do we know what they call themselves, or have they not? Is it something? Is it that we can't pronounce it? Or?
Yeah, that's it. Like because the Illuminati, they're partially transparent. They radiate light a little bit, and they make sound, but it's unclear where it's coming from. So we can't really reproduce. Like they have no translation.
Like when they speak. So when they speak in French or other languages that humans speak, it's all clear. But when they speak in their own language, we can't.
Exactly, and the Parthians, interesting enough, they look a little bit like the stereotypical aliens that we had before, like that we were imagining. They actually look a little bit
really
like
big
that.
heads and big eyes and stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, you may have seen them because they're like slowly kind of moving around on Earth.
Right.
But
they're not so. It's still an unusual sight.
Yeah. Totally. I still haven't really gotten used to it. But we call them the Parthians because they look a little bit like Mars.
Yeah, partially like a Martian.
Yeah, exactly. And apparently there is a third race that nobody made contact with. So
like a human, sure, but also the Parthians and the Illuminati.
Yeah, they haven't made contact with them.
Okay,
so
they know of them.
Yeah, I mean they told us about them,
right.
So they know where they are. They know which planet and so on. It's the planet that we already had in our system. It's like it didn't have a name; it had a number, 807335. Which is why we call them.
It'll be in the show notes, yeah, so you can read it.
Exactly.
But say it's 800.
807335. That was the number of the planet.
Yeah.
And I know because that's where we got their name from. We call them the Bolies because of the number. Whatever they call themselves, we don't know. So that's kind of the alien race. Apparently, there's signals coming from somewhere saying there's somewhere another race, but that's all we know. And the Illuminati and the Parthians, they figured a way to communicate with each other, kind of fine-tuned that, and basically when they found us, they had it all maxed out. So yeah, really fast summary. And they have technology and
cool food, tasty food.
That's true, and a really interesting way of space travel, and especially with teleporters apparently not working in space. I think we spoke about this before.
We can teleport around the Earth, but we can't go beyond.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there we have different ways of transport, but they also have their own. And the Parthians are the ones that invented this. Translation technology where you land somewhere, you immediately detect, analyze and translate a language kind of on the spot. So when those first Belgian villagers came there, their French was immediately picked up and analyzed, which is why they could speak immediately.
Right, it wasn't like there was some adjustment period or whatever where the aliens were saying some stuff and the people going, what are you talking about? Straight away they understood one another.
And also, like, when we speak, they understand. So we've basically been communicating in our language, but from their point of view, it sounds like we're communicating their language, and the same with Illuminati. So, and I think before we were talking about how alien technology was integrated in some of the cyborg apps, which is still a rumor because so far...
Right, because there's been, so far in the last... we first encountered them 23 years ago. So say in the last 20 years, the only real instance of alien technology having an effect or having a big impact on our life here on Earth was that translation technology. Because at first, so it's very useful. Not just for speaking to aliens, but for speaking to other people in languages that if you don't have a shared language, hey, now you can still speak with one another. And one of the consequences we wouldn't have imagined before was we can now also talk with animals. And that has led to many things.
Sounds amazing, but
I mean, depends on the type of animal you're talking to, what kind of conversation you can have. But the point is, you can talk to all the animals. And especially, like pigs, they have really interesting conversations. And then that's led to, bacon is really tasty. But when you know that you can have a really kind of fun, interesting conversation with the pig, it's like, at least it's led to a lot more vegetarianism.
That's true, yeah.
And even, and veganism too, And even, next level, it's a whole different type of conversation. It's a bit more... relaxing, talking with mushrooms. Like not like you maybe you're thinking of just like a little one you hold in your hand. No, the type where they go under the forest, and they're miles across. You talk with one of those and you're like, this is interesting stuff. They don't mind you eating them, but still it feels very different,
But a lot of people weren't dealing with it really well, I remember. Where a lot of people were comfortable because it's like, if you have technology, then it's not like you can decide. Like if it's switched on, you hear everybody.
Yeah.
And if it's switched off, you don't hear anything. And then initially it was a bit of a wave where everybody was trying it out, and then a lot of people were feeling really
overwhelmed.
Uncomfortable. And it's interesting how different a lot of animals are thinking.
This is within our own recent lifetimes, so we remember obviously what it was like before, and now we're used to it now. It's been over 20 years, but we're now used to being able to understand anything. For you, what was like the most, so do you have any strong memories about it? Transition?
We're also talking memories because I think it's still being used. I'm not really sure if it's officially regulated, but it's either it feels like it was a hype and it kind of died down, or they somehow made it available harder.
Like harder to use.
Yeah.
It's not like you're talking about the translation technology itself. Yeah. No, it's with new things, new technologies, new ideas, they have a period of great popularity early on, and then it dies down, and obviously some things you still use, but less often. It's not so. It's not part of your day-to-day life. Maybe just you go on holiday to France. Okay, you don't know French, you use it then.
For me, conversations is exaggerated, but the orangutans. I think they're living in Malaysia and Indonesia nowadays. That was a real experience because they are super relaxed, but they also have like really interesting perspectives on things. And you would, because they don't look so bright, but they reflect. They spend a whole day thinking about things. And other animals, a lot of predators, they have no They have
They're very focused on the moment. Yeah,
exactly.
Like they're not contemplating things in the same way as an orangutan.
Single track mind. It's like they're constantly just thinking about food. Either sleeping or where do I get my next meal. And it's different with like the vegetarian animals, which is basically they have their food around them. Like same with panda bears. Apparently, I've never heard.
Not spoken before. No.
Yeah, but they. But it's also. It doesn't seem to really work properly the other way around, where the animals don't really seem to.
I guess we come across as really strange to them. Yeah, like for example, a carnivore, a hunter. It's focused on getting food. You try and talk to it about music. They're like, "What even are you talking about?"
Not even understanding, even though maybe it translates properly.
Yeah.
But that's one of the examples where alien technology. I think it was the only one that was really
widespread.
Yeah, exactly, mass market, and then since then people have been super wary.
Yeah, because of all those unforeseen, unimagined side effects.
And this seemed to be super innocent, And then the Parsians don't give a damn. They're saying whatever, It's like you can use our stuff, That's why they made it, and they just seem to be a little like us. Like we just also offer them our technology, and for example, they didn't have teleporting, so they're experimenting with this now, not super successfully. But so sharing, so and they're doing this as well. But the Illuminati are way less. I mean, they're super nice, but I think they don't think we can handle their stuff.
Sure, it does glow a lot. You have to wear sunglasses, or at least I have to wear sunglasses when I'm around them.
Do you know some of the Illuminati technology, or?
No, I'm not up to date on it.
It's the one that stands out most is they can move through walls or through solid objects.
Yeah, right. Not just walls. That would be a funny limitation. But
not by default. So it's like they can do it, but then they actually need technology, so they can't do it out of themselves.
Okay, right. It's not. So they have developed technology that allows them to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as I understand, it costs energy. I can't figure it out, but
So, but is it tied to them? Like, are they the only ones who can use it? Can the Parsians use it? Can we use it?
We haven't tried, but they are not super open to sharing. I mean, officially they're saying we can consider it as far as we understand, and it might be an option, but like a lot of discussions with them, and also partially with the Parsians, are super. I mean, I'm not saying awkward, but like we do understand each other, but it feels like we're not having the same conversation often. And they're also saying, yeah, sure, but nothing really is happening. And at the same time, I mean, I'm the ethics advisor. We are not sure if it's a good idea to start using it.
Specifically the technology for passing through objects.
Yeah, or anything. It's like our whole structure of our bodies is different.
Right.
And then what is it gonna do to us? I mean, people were super wary about teleportation.
I was going to say,
or electricity or whatever. Apparently.
Yeah.
So
it's an unknown thing. Like you can see what's being promised, what the benefits could be, but then you people do imagine what are the possible downsides. Where could this go wrong?
I mean, when I was a kid, I would sometimes use a teleporter to transport to the upper floors. So because I didn't want to walk the stairs, and then if you can pass through walls, you don't need to take the door or basically teleport to the other room. So I can just imagine it having benefits, making our lives even easier.
Yeah. I mean, one of the concerns I have would be. So you'd want the technology to be well tested, because what if you fall through the floor and just keep falling to, I guess, the middle of the earth? I don't know where you'd stop at some point, maybe naturally, or whether you just keep falling, to the center. That would be pretty
maybe
bad if it wasn't if it went wrong.
Maybe the Illuminati all have that figured out. That's why they're going like, we'll think about it. That could be a thing. I was just thinking, it would just be like You know those teleporters that don't have security set, where you can just jump to random locations, end up in somebody's house.
Yeah, teleport roulette. Yeah,
exactly. And this would be like people that do have that set up. You just teleport next door and you walk through the walls, like, hey, surprise. Which would be awesome for a surprise party.
I mean, it's not a natural ability of them; it's a technology. So presumably they also have shields, effective shield. You know, basically you can make a house or a building or a room or whatever where you can't walk into. Like it interrupts whatever the technology is that allows you to cross. I mean, so I do enjoy speculating. You would imagine that's what you need in the floors to stop you falling through down to the world, to the center of the world. Or through you're in a spaceship, okay, whether you wouldn't fall exactly, but say you kept running and just accidentally passed through the wall of the spaceship, okay, and now you're outside, and that's not great.
Probably.
I mean, a spaceship with that, you'd want not just the floors to be made of it, but the wall, the whole surface of the machine. Yes,
I mean, we are trying to regulate it or not, but the thing is, they speak with everybody. Like the Illuminati and the Parsons, they are free to move around. So that's why you regularly have rumors like this might just be alien technology. Maybe they're sharing it. Maybe they're they have good relationships with the people at Green Cell, and suddenly they offer that. We'll figure it out. Okay, so that was a little bit about alien technology. It's a pretty big topic. So if you guys have more questions, just send us an email.
To michaellasagna5@gmail.com.
And we didn't actually get any user questions after our Solstice episode. Maybe 200 years ago, everybody was also celebrating Solstice or whatever.
Maybe they got a backlog of a few episodes. They didn't listen to it at the time. They were busy partying, but now they're getting to it a few weeks later. So if you have questions, please send them to us.
Okay, I would say that's it for now. Thanks everybody for listening, and see you in 200 years.
Bye-bye.